Hofbrau Dunkel Exportbier.
Life is too short to be drinking shitty beer.
Welcome to another edition of Banned Bikes and Booze Reviews. Lockdown, day 399. Oh, I'm so sick of it. But I have got a bottle of this stuff to try and console myself with. It's the Hofbrau House Dunkel Exportbier. Now, I said this in the review of the Helles that they do. Do not confuse this with the Hofbrau from Munich. Now, they do come from Bavaria. They come from a place called Freising, which is mentioned on the label. I don't know if you can see that or not, but it's got Freising there. That is northeast of Munich, and it is a region, or it is the same region where Weihenstephan is. Now, Weihenstephan, if you don't know, is the oldest, arguably the oldest German brewer, and arguably the oldest brewery in the world. The University of Brewing is based, when I say brewing, I don't mean Belgian beer, I mean actually brewing beer, is in Weihenstephan. And there's a couple of videos knocking about on YouTube, and it shows you what they do there and how serious they take the brewing process and the research that they conduct. I don't know what it's like now with COVID and all that, but you know, they are constantly monitoring yeast strains. They are surveying members of the public, how they react to certain beers, etc. Lots of science involved, and of course it's where all the best brewers go to learn the art of brewing. And this lot come from that region, and it's telling because these aren't a bad brewery. I tried their, it was the Hell, I think it was, the other night, and it was a solid beer. Now, it wasn't massive on flavour, but it tasted good, and it was one of them beers where you could just knock back loads of the stuff because it went down so smoothly. Great mouthfeel, no obtrusive flavours, perfectly balanced, not massive on flavour, but the flavour was there and it was nice. For me, a perfect session lager. So this stuff, it does promise a little bit, because Dunkel being my favourite style of German export type beer, Dunkel being my favourite style of German lager, you know, well, that's a lie actually. It's my preferred style of any type of German beer. So for example, I much prefer Dunkel Weiss to the normal Hefeweiss. I prefer Dunkel Export and Dunkel Lager rather than the normal Helles. Now don't get me wrong, I'm partial to both. But if there was a choice, if somebody handed me two bottles of beer, one was a Helles, one was a Dunkel, I would always go for the Dunkel. Usually, especially the Bavarian stuff, usually because it contains really nice sweet caramel malt. And for me, there's just a little bit more flavour. And it's very sessionable as well. So, you know, it's win-win for everybody. And this is their offering. Now, they've been going since, well, they can trace their roots back to 1160. And you could argue that it's even further than that, but the official records, I think it's a delivery book or a delivery manifest dating back to 1160 that they've based their roots on, and they've been going ever since then. And it's quite a small brewery. You've probably not heard of this lot before. I've seen them advertised before when I was doing research on Hofbrau beer. I've seen this lot. I was a bit confused. I thought they may have been like a subsidiary or something. They're not connected in any way as far as I know, or as far as I can tell anyway. And they are completely independent as far as I know too. And I think it's actually owned by a German count at the moment. I said count, all right? Don't get ideas in your head. Anyway, with all that in mind, let's get this beer investigated. Okay, it is a Dunkel Exportbier. It conforms to the Reinheitsgebot because it is from Bavaria. There is the EU Geographical Protected Status stamp, or stamp of authenticity, if you like. And it doesn't really give me any more information than that. Ingredients: water, malt, and hop. In Italian, the ingredients: acqua, malto d'orzo. I think that means malted barley because Gersten malts is there, and hops is lupulo. That's really interesting because part of the hop flour, you have lupids, and that's where all the flavour is, and the oil as well. And it obviously does come from the Latin word for hop. So I just made the link there. So that's quite interesting. Not for everybody, but for me. Anyway, let's shut up. Let's get this open. Right, off with the cap. There is the cap. And get it in the glass. Now, as I say, the Helles was pretty solid. I'm hoping the Dunkel was going to be the same. It contained all the characteristics of a Bavarian beer, or a Bavarian Helles. So I'm hoping this does as well. And it does. Wow. First thing that hits you is caramel malt. A very slightly sulphurous aroma, and I'm smelling that more and more in Bavarian beer. I'm not sure whether it's just me getting used to it, or it's just the last few beers that I've tried have had this sulphurous aroma. It's there, but it's very subtle and it dies away, and I'm sure it's connected with the lagering process. I don't know how that would work, but there's a very slight sulphurous taste of a lot of Bavarian beers, and normally sulphur, you do get that. That's a process of lagering, but it normally escapes into the air and it doesn't affect the flavour. On the Bavarian beers, you do get, it could be the water, I don't know, but they do make a thing about saying, you know, they use fresh spring water. But it's all conjecture at the moment. I have absolutely no evidence whatsoever, but it's a fact. There you go, in the glass, very nice. Dark ruby colour. Yeah, just lovely sweet caramel malt. Slightly nutty, fruity aroma. That's sort of overshadowed by that little subtle sulphurous flavour. But it does smell nice. Flavours, as I say, flavours and aromas on this aren't massive, but it's solid. So let's get it down the hatch. Zum Wohl, as I say in Germany. That is nice. However, and this is my fault, a lot of the stuff was coming out the fridge warm, so I've turned it up, and of course Captain Twat has turned it up too much. This is really cold, so I'm going to let this settle down for a bit, because I think I'm going to miss some of the flavours if I drink it at this temperature. I will be back presently. Okie dokie, that is warmed up a little bit, so let's dive in again. And it's very much like the Helles. The flavours are not massive, but it's nice. There's a little bit of caramel malt, a little bit of nuttiness to it. A very subtle hop, bitter hop finish. It's very subtle though, and all in all, even the body is slightly weaker than most German Dunkels. But I'll tell you something, and what it lacks in the flavour, it makes up for in drinkability, as did the Helles. Yeah, cannot complain. And I sort of see what they're trying to do here. Now, obviously not in this weather. I'm drinking it in the middle of January. It's freezing cold and it's raining out there. But if you can imagine sitting in Bavaria during the height of the summer, and it don't half get hot down there, this had come straight out of the fridge. This wouldn't touch the sides, and it was the same with the Helles as well. It's just so drinkable. And this is going to sound like a complete contradiction to everything about this channel, but the flavours don't get in the way, if you know what I mean. This is one for just drinking and drinking and drinking. And as I keep saying, I found that with the Helles as well. What they lacked in the big flavours that you would expect from a Bavarian beer more than makes up for it in the drinkability. Mouthfeel superb, carbonation isn't obtrusive at all. Head retention, well, you know, it never really does, especially when it's cold, so I may have had something to do with that, you know, but either way, this is a very drinkable dark German lager. So what's the verdict on Hofbrauhaus Dunkel Exportbier? Well, it's 5.2%. I should have mentioned that earlier in the beer facts. It's 5.2%. So for me, this really is probably, now they're all good, don't get me wrong, but it is one of the best session type beers from Bavaria that I've tried. Now don't get me wrong, as I keep saying, nearly all the beer that comes out of Bavaria is good. Not all of it. I used to think all of it did, but I have come up against a couple of humdingers, believe me. But this stuff, the stuff that's coming out of the Hofbrauhaus, and you've got to remember, they are like they're a brewery, but they're also, I think they're a hotel, and they have a beer garden as well. And I don't know whether that's been brewed for its drinkability and also for how good it would taste when you're eating food, because they do sell a lot of food at this place as well, this Hofbrauhaus beer garden. You don't want massively favoured beer when you're eating something, and this is perfect, but you know, it's still got the drinkability, so I get what they're trying to do, and they're doing it really well. For me, that is a solid 8 out of 10, and I recommend this lot, the Hofbrauhaus. Now I've tried the two, I've tried the dark, I've tried the Helles. If you want a beer, a good quality German beer, Reinheitsgebot that it's not massive on flavour, but what it lacks in the flavour and the aroma, it more than makes up for in the drinkability. If you know, you probably wouldn't be doing this over in United Kingdom, but you know, if you're ever in Germany, especially in Bavaria, and you're spoilt for choice there, but if you can get hold of this would be a great fridge filler. You know, I'm not sure the price in Germany. I think this was about £2.50 or something off of Beers of Europe. But I like these because of the drinkability. Now, they're not like Marston's. Marston's beer is pretty average. It lacks flavour and it lacks aroma. They're a massive brewery. This lot are small. This beer doesn't have the big flavours of the Munich breweries, but it's still good, and I like it. And I would definitely buy this again. So yeah, that's going to get a solid 8 out of 10. It's recommended. And if you're quick on Beers of Europe now, they've just got a massive influx of German beer. I don't know whether they've done that because of Brexit. Who knows? But fill your boots. And if you can get hold of this stuff, if it's still on there, buy some. It's just a good beer for sitting around and just knocking back. You know, sitting in front of the football, watching a film or something. This is perfect. You don't have to think about the flavours. It's just bang, bang, bang. You know? So yeah, love it. And remember, beer is working class champagne.